Obstructive sleep apnea, what is it? How common is it? It's really, really common, more so than we might even think. A 2017 article in The Lancet reported 936 million people on this planet with an increased risk or high risk of obstructive sleep apnea. So what is it? Well, somebody might have told you in the past, or you might have seen somebody during sleep, that they're snoring heavily. That's obstructive sleep apnea. So heavy snoring and then total silence. And the total silence is because the airway may have collapsed during sleep. Because of course, if this collapsible tube here, if it fully closes, well, air can't come from the nose or mouth into the lungs. The individual stops breathing during sleep. And if it lasts for more than 10 seconds for an adult, it's termed one apnea. Now the problem with that is that when air can't get into the lungs, well, of course, oxygen can't get into the lungs. And then oxygen is not getting into the blood. And of course, then blood oxygen saturation is dropping. And at the same time, the gas carbon dioxide that's being produced by the body, by the metabolism, is not able to leave the body. So carbon dioxide accumulates in the lungs and oxygen reduces. The brain is very oxygen hungry. And the brain, in terms of an organ in the human body, consumes 20% of our oxygen. If the brain senses that your blood oxygen is dropping, the brain is going to take you out of deep sleep. So the person who breathes that way is not going to spend a whole lot of time in deep sleep. And it's deep sleep that all the good stuff happens when it comes to sleep, because it's during this time that the brain cleans itself. So you have to think of the brain that's cleaning itself, and it happens during sleep, and it doesn't happen so much during the day. And the reason being is because during the day, the brain needs to be able to do what it does. It needs to be able to function and focus, but this happens during sleep. And probably one of the primary functions of the brain is cleaning itself during deep sleep. But if we're snoring heavily and we're stopping breathing, or if we have a reduction in the flow of our breathing during sleep, well, the brain is not getting that clean. We wake up feeling unrefreshed. We're not able to function during the day. We're tired. We're going to be more irritable. We're going to be more prone to mental health issues. So obstructive sleep apnea is pretty serious. And even though, unfortunately, 85% of people are undiagnosed, and of the 15% of people who get diagnosed, only 40% of people take up the treatment, which is a CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure. And of the 40% of people that take up the CPAP machine, of that, 50% of people abandon it within 3 to 6 months. So if you have 100 people in a town with obstructive sleep apnea, 15 of them will get diagnosed, and 40% of that 15 will accept treatment, which is about 6 or 7 people. And of that, 50% of that 6 or 7 people are going to abandon treatment in 3 to 6 months. So you can have 100 people in a town and 3 people are on treatment. What about the other 97? Could there be a role for breathing? Could there be a role for breathing re-education and myofunctional therapy combined? And in this field for the last 22 years, I think there's a tremendous potential. So when it comes to breathing, we're talking about breathing in and out through the nose. We're talking about improving breathing from a number of different perspectives, but ultimately, we want to normalize breathing patterns so that not so much air is being forced in and out of the airway. If an individual is breathing quite fast and quite hard, they can be susceptible to more unstable breathing, which feeds into their sleep apnea. If the person is breathing in and out through the mouth, it's narrowing the upper airway. And if they're breathing high in the upper chest, it's also causing the airway to collapse more easily. So there's a huge role for breathing here. I have written a scientific paper on it with Dr. Carlos O'Connor and Guillermo Plaza. It's peer-reviewed, it's a review article, it's supported by 170 different references. Myofunctional therapy has been around a long time, over 100 years, and when we bring together Buteyko and myofunctional therapy, we could have a great approach here for helping people with insomnia, snoring and obstructive sleep apnea. Now, the first step comes to breathing in and out through your nose during sleep. never wake up with a dry mouth in the morning.